Welcome to the first session of Geotechnical Engineering 2. In the previous semester, you have studied Geotechnical Engineering 1 where you learnt about the determination of index and engineering properties of soil. In this semester, you will study about the applications of those index and engineering properties in the design of foundations and other earthen structures. What are the index properties of soil? Specific gravity, water content, particle size distribution, consistency limits, field density, density index, etc. The purpose of finding these index properties is to identify and classify the soils for various engineering purposes. What are the engineering properties of soil? There are three engineering properties of soil: permeability, compressibility, and shear strength. Permeability is the property of soil which permits flow of water through it. This parameter is important in the design of earthen dams, earthen embankments, and soil liners. In Geotechnical Engineering 1, you have studied about the laboratory determination of coefficient of permeability, factors affecting permeability, and permeability of stratified soil deposits. Even you studied about the soil water and stresses in soils. What is the difference between pore water pressure and seepage pressure? Pore water pressure is the pressure exerted by the static water present in the soil, whereas seepage pressure is the pressure due to dynamic water or flowing water in the soil. What is compressibility of soil? It is the settlement of soil due to compaction and consolidation of soil. What is the difference between compaction and consolidation of soil? Compaction is the settlement of soil due to expulsion of air under dynamic loads, whereas consolidation is the settlement of soil due to expulsion of water from the soil under steady static loads. In Geotechnical Engineering 1, you have studied about the compaction process, effect of compaction on soil properties, field compaction control, estimation of consolidation properties, and consolidation settlement. What is the shear strength of soil? Shear strength of soil is its maximum internal resistance to the applied shearing forces. Soil derives its shear strength from the cohesion and angle of shearing resistance of soil, which are known as shear strength parameters. In Geotechnical Engineering 1, we have studied the estimation of shear strength parameters from the shear tests like direct shear test, triaxial test, and unconfined compression test. We know that every civil engineering structure, either it is a building or bridge, must be founded in or on the surface of the earth, and it must have a proper foundation. The foundations are classified as shallow foundation and deep foundation. If the depth to width ratio is less than or equal to the width of the footing, it is called as shallow foundation, and if this ratio is greater than 4, it is called as deep foundation. When do we design the footing as shallow footing? When the hard strata is located near to the ground surface. We can use shallow foundations such as isolated footings, combined footings, strip footing, raft footing, etc. But if the hard strata is located at greater depth, then the permissible means of transferring the load of the structure is by vertical members like caissons, piles, or piers, which are called as deep foundations. The design of shallow foundations in different soils will be discussed in Bearing Capacity chapter of Unit 4, and the design of deep foundations will be discussed in Unit 5. In the design of foundations on soft soils, the main problem is to prevent the settlements. For buildings, settlements above 125 mm will cause cracks. The estimation of probable settlements of structures and the permissible settlements will be discussed in the settlement chapter of Unit 4. Other than buildings, a civil engineer should also deal with the natural slopes, man-made slopes like embankments and earth retaining structures. If the surface of soil is not horizontal, there is a component of gravity which tends the soil move downward and cause failure of slope. The failure of natural slope is called landslide. The man-made slopes such as earthen embankment, earthen dams, excavations made for foundations, canal slopes will also be subjected to failure if they are not designed properly. The stability analysis of earth slopes will be discussed in Unit 3. There are two main types of earth retaining structures, retaining walls and bulkheads. Retaining walls resist the lateral moment by their own huge weight, whereas bulkheads receive their lateral support from penetration into the soil and from the anchoring system near the top of the wall. If you observe any harbor structure like loading and unloading platforms, the waterfront structure is protected by bulkheads like sheet pile walls. When the ship comes close to the platform, huge thrust will be exerted on the sheet pile. To protect this, it has to be supported by proper anchoring system. If the load is high, even battery piles are required to increase the lateral support. To design these earth retaining structures, an engineer must compute the stresses exerted by the supported soil on the retaining wall. This stress is called lateral earth pressure. The estimation of lateral earth pressure of different soils will be discussed in Unit 2. To estimate the strength or settlement of soil, an engineer must estimate the stresses those are going to come on the subsoil. The stresses in soils under different loadings will be discussed in Chapter 2 of Unit 1, that is stresses in soils. For any big civil engineering project, the site investigation must be done prior to the construction, the details of which will be discussed in Chapter 1 of Unit 1, that is site investigation and subsurface exploration. In this session, we'll start with stresses in soils. Stresses in soils are required for the stability analysis of soil mass, settlement analysis of foundations, and for the estimation of earth pressures. How the stresses are induced in a soil mass? The stresses are induced mainly due to self-weight of the soil and applied loads from the structure. The stresses due to self-weight of the soil are called as geostatic stresses, which can be calculated by multiplying the unit weight of soil with the thickness of soil. This part you have already studied in Geotechnical Engineering 1, and you know how to estimate the total, neutral and effective stresses which are caused due to self-weight of soil and soil water. But how to estimate the stresses developed due to external loads such as foundations? For this, we can use methods like Boussinesq, Westergaard, Newmark's method and approximate methods. First, let us discuss about the Boussinesq method. For any theory, there will be some assumptions. To simplify the solution by reducing the unknowns. The assumptions in this method are: the soil is homogeneous, isotropic, semi-infinite, weightless, and an elastic medium where the modulus of elasticity is constant. In this method, equations are given for 4 types of loading, that is point load, uniformly loaded circular area, line load and strip load. The first one is vertical stress due to concentrated load or point load. Suppose there is a point load Q acting on the ground surface. The vertical stress at a point P located at a depth Z and a radial distance R is given as sigma z equal to 3q by 2 pi z square into 1 by 1 plus r by z square to the power 5 by 2. If the point is directly below the point load, then the radial distance is 0. So in this case, sigma z equal to 3q by 2 pi z square, because when r equal to 0, this entire term will become 1. So that sigma z equal to 3q by 2 pi z square. This equation can also be written as sigma z equal to kb into q by z square, where kb is the Boussinesq influence factor, the values of which are available in the form of table for various r by z ratios. The next case is vertical stress due to uniformly loaded circular area. Suppose there is a circular area of radius a subjected to a UDL of intensity q acting at the ground surface. The increase in vertical stress at a depth z directly below the center of the circular load is given as sigma z equal to q into 1 minus 1 by 1 plus a by z square to the power 3 by 2. This equation can also be written in terms of theta, that is angle subtended at point P, where sigma z equal to q into 1 minus cos cube theta. Next case is vertical stress due to line load. Consider a line load of intensity q dash per unit length acting along y-axis. The vertical stress at a point P located at a depth z and a horizontal distance x is given as sigma z equal to 2q dash divided by pi z into 1 by 1 plus x by z square whole square. If the point is directly below the center of the line load, then x equal to 0 and sigma z equal to 2q dash by pi z. The last case is vertical stress under strip load. Let us consider a strip of width b subjected to a UDL of q per unit area. The vertical stress at point P located at a depth z below the center of loaded area is given as sigma z equal to q by pi into theta plus sin theta. Here in this equation, theta value must be taken in radians. If we want to estimate the vertical stress at a point A which is away from the strip load, then we have to draw radial lines from the endpoints of this strip load to the point A. Then we have to measure the angles made by these radial lines with vertical, that is theta 1 and theta 2. For this case, the equation is given as sigma z equal to q by pi into theta 2 minus theta 1 plus cos theta 2 plus theta 1 into sin theta 2 minus theta 1. Here in this equation, the difference theta 2 minus theta 1 must be taken in radians. Then what are the field examples of these four types of loads? For point load, the example is isolated footing. For uniformly loaded circular area, well foundation. For line load, the examples are railway track, row of piles and foundations of load bearing walls. For strip load, combined footing or strip footing can be taken as examples. All these equations have to be remembered for solving the numerical. The derivations are not required except for uniformly loaded circular area. Now let us see the derivation of uniformly loaded circular area. Let a circular area of radius A carry a UDL of intensity Q. Consider an elemental strip of radius R and thickness dr. Let delta A be an elemental area of this ring. When we multiply the UDL with this area, we'll get the equivalent point load. So the equivalent point load equal to Q into delta E. Now, if we consider the Boussinesq point load equation, we can write delta sigma z equal to 3 into Q delta A divided by 2 pi z square 1 by 1 plus r by z square to the power 5 by 2. The load on the entire strip can be written as delta sigma z equal to sigma delta sigma z, which is equal to 3q by 2 pi z square into 1 by 1 plus r by z square to the power 5 by 2 sigma delta A. This sigma delta A value can be taken as 2 pi r dr, perimeter into thickness of the strip. Now if we consider the UDL on the entire area, then we can write sigma z equal to 3q by z square integral of 0 to a r dr divided by z square plus r square by z square to the power 5 by 2, which can be written as 3q into z cube integral of 0 to a r dr divided by z square plus r square to the power 5 by 2. This z square is taken to the numerator. Then when we assume z square plus r square equal to t square, we can write 2r dr equal to 2t dt and r dr equal to t dt. When we take r equal to 0 in this equation, we'll get t equal to z, and when we take r equal to a, we'll get t value as square root of z square plus a square. Now when we substitute these values in the previous equation, we can write 3q z cube integral of z to square root of z square plus a square t dt divided by t to the power 5. This term can be written as dt by t to the power of 4, and when we do the integration, we'll get minus 1 by 3t cube, and when you substitute this lower and upper limits, we'll be getting the equation like this, from which we can write q, the sigma z equal to q into 1 minus 1 by 1 plus a by z square to the power 3 by 2. If theta is the angle made by the triangle formed at the center, like this, then if you take part of this equation, that is 1 plus a by z square, we can write z square plus a square by z square. So what is this z square plus a square? Is nothing but, from this triangle we can say it is PM. This is point P. It is nothing but hypotenuse square. Then z square, it is nothing but opposite side square. So what is hypotenuse by opposite side? Is nothing but secant theta. So we can write it as secant square theta. Now if we substitute this value in place of 1 plus a by z square, then we'll be getting the equation like this, from which we can write sigma z equal to q into 1 minus cos cube theta. Now let us see some numericals on these 4 cases of loadings. First one is a point load of 500 kilonewton due to a monument acts at the ground surface. Calculate the vertical pressures at a point 5 meter directly below the load and at a radial distance of 4 meter from the axis of loading using Boussinesq expression. So here point load Q is given as 500 kilonewton and the depth Z is given as 5 meter. So the point load equation is 3q by 2 pi z square into 1 by 1 plus r by z square to the power 5 by 2. So in the first case, it is asked to find the increase in stress at a point directly below the point load. So directly below the point load, the r value is 0. So when you take r equal to 0 in this equation, then you can write sigma z equal to 3q by 2 pi z square. Substituting the values of q and z in this equation, we'll get the increase in stress as 9.55 kilonewton per meter square. In the second case, it is asked to find the increase in stress at a point located at a radial distance of 4 meter from the axis of loading, that is r equal to 4 meter. So when you take r equal to 4 meter and z equal to 5 meter in the equation, we will get the sigma z value as 2.77 kilonewton per meter square. Next example, Two columns P and Q are 5 meter apart. The loads on the columns P and Q are 200 kN and 300 kN respectively. Calculate the increase in stress in the soil 5 meter below each load and also the midpoint between the loads at the same depth. Assume this is column P and this is column Q. The loads are 200 kN and 300 kN. Now we have to calculate the increase in stress at a depth of 5 meter, below each load and also the midpoint between the loads at same depth. So because it is a point load case, we take the equation of point load. So here when we consider the point directly below column P, the load whatever is coming through column P will become direct load to this point, and whatever the load that is coming through column Q will become neighboring load. So you have to take the radial distance. For the direct load, radial distance equal to 0. So for the direct load, the increase in stress is 3Q by 2 pi Z square. For the neighboring load of 300 kN, the radial distance is 5 meter. So taking these values in the equation, we'll get the increase in stress is 4.83 kN per meter square. When you take the point directly below the column Q, then whatever the load that is acting on column Q will become direct load and the other load will become neighboring load with a radial distance of 5 meter. So substituting these values in the equation and by taking the sum of stresses, we'll get the increase in stresses 6.41 kN per meter square. Now we should also find the increase in stress at a point in between those 2 points, that is the midpoint of these 2 points. So if you take this point, then these two loads will become neighboring loads with a radial distance of 2.5 meter each. So if you take 2.5 meter in the equation and when you substitute the values in the point load equation, we will get the increase in stress as 5.46 kN per meter square. Next example, 3 parallel strip foundations, each 3 meter wide, 5 meter apart, center to center, transmit contact pressures of 200 kPa, 150 kPa and 100 kPa respectively. Calculate the intensity of vertical stress due to the combined loads beneath the center of each footing at 3 meter depth. Use Boussinesq line load approximation. So here in this problem, 3 strip loads are given. The width of each strip load is 3 meter. Now you have to find the increase in stress at a depth of 3 meter below the center of each strip load, that is at points A, B and C. But here one condition is given, that is use Boussinesq line load approximation. Means you have to convert these loads to line loads. Okay, these loads are given kilonewton per meter square, that is load per unit area. We have to convert into load per meter length. So to convert the load per unit area to load per unit length, you have to multiply this load with the width of the strip load. So you will be getting the line loads as 600 kN per meter, 450 kN per meter and 300 kN per meter. The line load equation is sigma z equal to 2q dash by pi z into 1 by 1 plus x by z square whole square. So here if you take point A, then whatever the load that is there above this point will become direct load and the other two loads will become neighboring loads with radial distances of 5 meter and 10 meter. So if you take the x values as 5 meter and 10 meter for both these loads, we'll get the total increase in stress at point A as 134.45 kilonewton per meter square. Then when we take the point B, then whatever the load that is acting above this point, that is 450 kilonewton per meter, will become direct load, whereas the loads 600 kilonewton per meter and 300 kilonewton per meter will become neighboring loads with radial distances of 5 meter each. When we substitute the distances x values as 5 meter and 5 meter, then we'll get the total stress increase as 108.87 kilonewton per meter square. Then at point C, the 300 kilonewton per meter will become direct load and the other two loads will become neighboring loads with x distances 5 meter and 10 meter. Substituting these values in the line load equation and by taking the sum of increase in vertical stresses, we'll get the increase in vertical stress at point C as 71.22 kilonewton per meter square. Next example. The plan of a three-legged tower forms an equivalent triangle of side 4 meter. If the total weight of the tower is 450 kilonewton and is equally carried by all the legs, compute the vertical stress increase caused in the soil by the tower at a depth of 4 meter directly below one of the legs. So it is like a triangle. The plan of the tower is like a triangle of side 4 meter. Total weight is given as 450 kilonewton. So the load that is coming on each leg is 450 by 3, that is 150 kilonewton. Now if you consider any one leg, because it is asked to find the increase in stress directly below one of the legs. If we consider one leg, then whatever the load that is acting at this leg will become direct load and the other two loads will become neighboring loads with a radial distance of 4 meter each. Then by taking the point load equation, for the direct load there is no radial distance or equal to 0, so you can write 3q by 2 pi z square, and other two loads, because they are having same radial distance, we can multiply with 2 into 3q by 2 pi z square into 1 by 1 plus r value is 4, r by z square to the power 5 by 2. You will be getting 6.06 kilonewton per meter square. Next example. A water tank of total load 12 meganewton is supported on a tower with 4 legs located on a rectangle of sides 4 meter and 6 meter. Calculate the vertical stress at a depth of 7 meter below first point, one of the legs of the tower, and also second point below the center of tower at the same depth. So here total load is given as 12 meganewtons. There are 4 legs and the load coming on each leg is same. So the load on each leg will be 12 divided by 4, that is 3 meganewton, which is equal to 3000 kilonewton. Now we have to estimate the increase in stress at a depth of 7 meter, that is z equal to 7 meter. First we have to estimate the increase in stress below one of the legs of the tower. So if you consider any one leg, suppose this left corner, then whatever the load that is acting above this point will become direct load and the other 3 corner loads will become neighboring loads, for which the radial distances have to be determined. So if you take this corner, then the radial distance is 6 meter. For this load, the radial distance is 4 meter. and for this corner the radial distance is nothing but diagonal distance. So from the triangular property you can find the diagonal distance, which is coming as 7.21 meter. So if you take these radial distances 6 meter, 4 meter and 7.21 meter in the equation, point load equation, and when we calculate the sum of stresses induced by these 4 point loads, we'll get the total load as 55.82 kilonewton per meter square. Now the second point is we have to estimate the increase in stress at the center of the tower at this point and at the same depth, that is 7 meter. So Z value is 7 meter and you have to estimate the increase in stress at the center of the tower at this point. So here when we consider this 4 point loads at the 4 corners, it is having same radial distance. So if you calculate the stress due to 1 point load and when you multiply with 4, you will get the total increase in stress. So what is the radial distance here? It is nothing but half of the diagonal distance. So if you take the R value as half of the diagonal distance, and when you calculate the increase in stress due to 1 point load and when you multiply with 4, because there are 4 point loads, you will be getting the total increase in stress as 64.94 kilonewton per meter square. Next example. A circular area on the ground surface 8 meter in diameter carries a uniformly distributed load of 5 kilonewton per meter square. Find the vertical pressure at depths 3 meter, 5 meter and 12 meter. Also plot the variation of stress with depth. So the equation for circular area is given as sigma z equal to q into 1 minus 1 by 1 plus a by z square to the power 3 by 2, where a is the radius of circular area. Here diameter is given, so radius equal to 4 meter. And q is the intensity of loading acting on this circular area, which is given as 5 kilonewton per meter square. You have to find the increase in stress at different depths 3 meter, 5 meter and 12 meter. When you take z equal to 3 meter in this equation, you will be getting the increase in stress as 3.92 kilonewton per meter square. Similarly, when you take z equal to 5 meter and z equal to 12 meter, you will be getting the stresses as 2.62 and 0.73 kilonewton per meter square respectively. Now, if we plot these values on a graph sheet by taking the depth on x-axis and vertical stress on y-axis, you will be getting a plot like this. Next example. A water tank is supported by a ring foundation having an outer diameter of 10 meter and inner diameter of 7.5 meter. The ring foundation transmits uniform load intensity of 160 kilonewton per meter square. Compute the vertical stress induced at a depth of 4 meter below the center of ring foundation using Boussinesq analysis and Westergaard analysis. Since we have not yet discussed about Westergaard analysis, we will do the problem only with Boussinesq analysis. So here the foundation is a ring foundation with outer diameter 10 meter and inner diameter 7.5 meter. The load is acting only on this ring. In between there is no load. For this inner circular area, there is no load acting on it. The load is acting only on this blue portion of the ring. So how to estimate the increase in stress due to this load? Initially we have to assume that the load is acting over this entire area including this cavity. Then we will be getting the increase in stress using the circular load equation. So there you have to take this A0, that is outer radius, as 5 meter. Outer diameter is given as 10 meter. So outer radius is 5 meter. 5 divided by Z value is 4 meter. Q is 160. Then, since there is no load acting over this cavity, you have to deduct the stress due to this inner circle. So the radius of inner circle is 7.5 by 2, that is 3.75 meter, divided by Z is 4 meter and Q is 160. Taking these values in this equation, we will be getting the increase in stress as 23.12 kilonewton per meter square. Next example. A line load of intensity 100 kilonewton per meter extends to a long distance. Determine the intensity of vertical stress at a point 2 meter below the surface and first point directly under the line load, second point at a distance of 2 meter and third point at a distance of 6 meter perpendicular to the line. Use Boussinesq theory. So the intensity of line load, that is Q dash, is given as 100 kilonewton per meter. Then Z value is given as 2 meter. So now we have to find the increase in vertical stress directly under the line load. Directly under the line load, the X value is 0. In the point load equation, we should take the X value as 0. So when you take X equal to 0 in the line load equation, you will be getting the increase in stress as 31.83 kilonewton per meter square. In the second case, we have to find the increase in stress at a distance of 2 meter. Means X value is given as 2 meter. So when you take X equal to 2 meter, we will get the increase in stress as 7.96 kilonewton per meter square. And in the third case, it is asked to find the increase in stress at a distance of 6 meter. That is X value equal to 6 meter. So when you take X equal to 6 meter in the equation, we will get the increase in stress is 0.318 kilonewton per meter square. So from this we can observe that as the horizontal distance increases, the vertical stress decreases. Next example. The load from a continuous footing of 1.8 meter width, which may be treated to be a strip load of considerable length, is 180 kilonewton per meter square. Calculate the vertical stress at 1.2 meter depth below the footing if the point lies directly below the center of the footing and directly below the edge of the footing. So in the strip load equation, first thing is we have to find the value of theta. So when we consider point P, then we can join this point with the endpoints of strip load and then we can find the angle theta using the triangular property. If you take this right angled triangle, then tan theta equal to 0.9, half of this width, 0.9 by 1.2. Right? From this we can find the value of theta as 73.74. Theta by 2 value will be 36.87. Because we want theta, we have to multiply with 2, which is 73.74 degrees. Then by taking the equation q by pi into theta plus sin theta, we can find the increase in stress as 128.74 kilonewton per meter square. But here theta value must be taken in radians. 73.74 into pi by 180. Then in the second point, it is asked to find the increase in stress at a point directly below the edge of the footing at this point. So here when you join the endpoints of strip load to this point, we'll be getting the values of theta 1 and theta 2. But here this edge, because it is exactly above this point, then there is no theta 1, right? Theta 1 will become 0, where theta 2 will get 56.31 degrees. From the triangular property, we can take tan theta 2, which is equal to 1.8 by 1.2. From this right angle triangle, we can write tan theta 2 equal to 1.8 by 1.2, from which we will get theta 2 as 56.31 degrees. Now, if the point is away from the strip load, then the equation is different, which is equal to q by pi into theta 2 minus theta 1 plus cos theta 2 plus theta 1 into sin theta 2 minus theta 1. So, here this difference theta 2 minus theta 1 must be taken in radians. So, substituting these values, we will be getting the increase in stress at this point as 82.75 kilonewton per meter square. Next example. A wall footing of width 2 meter is sufficiently long and imposes a load intensity of 200 kilonewton per meter square on the soil. There is a water pipe at a depth of 1 meter and a horizontal distance of 0.5 meter from the edge of the wall footing. First point, estimate the vertical stress on the pipe due to the wall footing. Second point, if the load is approximated as a line load, what will be the vertical stress on the pipe? So here strip load is given and the width is 2 meter. So now you have to find the increase in stress at a point A, which is located at a depth 1 meter and horizontal distance 0.5 meter. So how to find the increase in stress at this point? Initially, we have to assume that the load is strip load. That is the first point, right? Estimate the vertical stress on the pipe due to the wall footing. So initially the load is given as strip load. So we have to use the strip load equation. So here, to find the vertical stress at this point, we have to draw radial lines from the end points of strip load to the point A. Then we have to find the angle made by these radial lines with vertical as theta 1 and theta 2. Using the triangular property, we can write tan theta 1 equal to 0.5 by 1. And from the other triangle, we can write tan theta 2 equal to this 2 plus 0.5, 2.5 divided by 1. So, we will get the values of theta 1 and theta 2 as 26.565 and 68.199 degrees. Now, we can take the equation q by pi into theta 2 minus theta 1 plus cos theta 2 plus theta 1 into sin theta 2 minus theta 1. So, by substituting the values in the equation, we will get the increase in stress as 42.72 kilonewton per meter square. Here in the second point, it is mentioned that if the load is approximated as a line load, here the load is given as strip load, that is load per unit area. Line load means you have to convert this load per unit area into load per meter length. So when you convert this load into line load, you will be getting 2 into 200, that is 400 kilonewton per meter. And when we substitute this value in the line load equation, that is 2q dash divided by pi z into 1 by 1 plus x by z square whole square. What is this x value? X value is from the center of line load. From the center of line load to the point A. What is the horizontal distance? This is 1 meter plus 0.5, 1.5 meter. So, x value should be taken as 1.5 divided by z value is 1 meter. So when you substitute these values, we'll be getting the increase in stress as 24.11 kilonewton per meter square.